the Attorney General, Mr. Ayaz Syed Qayyum, the Solicitor General, the Executive Director of the Fiji National Council for Disabled Persons, the board, staff, and students of the Fiji School of the Blind, Vatuwaqa, my fellow Fijians, Vatuwaqa, and a very good morning to you all. I'm delighted to be here today at the School of the Blind in Vatuwaqa to unveil the braille version of the Fijian Constitution. The importance of this initiative for those Fijians who are visually impaired, who can't see properly, cannot be overstated. For the first time, those of you who have learned braille can have access to the full contents of the supreme law of our nation, the law that governs us all. You can read for yourself the new blueprint for Fiji that we launched with such optimism 7 months ago, and which is taking us to the first genuine democracy in our history on September the 17th. You can read for yourself all the provisions of the Constitution, the common and equal citizenry that gives every Fijian unprecedented rights and opportunities, the secular state that provides everyone with religious freedom and the right to follow their own beliefs, a guarantee of a truly independent judiciary, and our right to freedom of speech and expression, the rights of people with disabilities, including the visually impaired, the mechanics of our new 50-seat parliament and how our elected representatives will be chosen, and of course the full spectrum of our rights and responsibilities as Fijian citizens. This includes one of the most important facets of the Fijian Constitution, the unprecedented social and economic rights it guarantees: the right to economic participation, the right to proper education and health services, the right to adequate food and water. All this is in our new Constitution and here in this wonderful new version, the version in braille. Why did we go to the trouble of making this version? Why did hundreds of hours and many thousands of dollars go into providing something for a relatively small segment of the population, just about 1% of all Fijians? The answer is simple. It's because my government believes that everyone, no matter who they are, deserves to have access to our Constitution, not just to be told what's in it, but to read it for themselves, to explore it, to be made aware of how our country will be governed, to have their own copy that they can read and reread it wherever they want to do so. This document belongs to every Fijian, no matter who they are or where they come from. It is inclusive. And no other constitution in Fijian history has been widely available in anything other than English languages. The English language. Not the 1970 Constitution, nor the 1990 and 1997 Constitutions that were simply unjust, and that some Fijians were designated as being more equal than others. Some people deserve more rights than others. My government was not only determined that the new Fijian Constitution should establish a level playing field for every Fijian once and for all, but we are also determined that it should be accessible to everyone. So we translated it from the English into the Itaukei and Hindi languages and have distributed thousands, tens of thousands of copies across the nation. In doing so, this Constitution speaks to everyone. And today, my friends, it also speaks to you. Those of you who cannot read conventional text but can read braille. It is, of course, your Constitution, as it is for every Fijian. For the first time, it specifically contains provisions guaranteeing the rights of Fijians with disabilities, the right to reasonable access to public places, access to public transport, the right to information, including the use of sign language for those hard of hearing and braille for the visually impaired. There are approximately 8,000 blind or visually impaired Fijians across the country. As I said, roughly 1% of the population. Now you have the same opportunity that everyone else has to comprehend our blueprint for the new and better Fiji. And I hope that as you do so, you share my excitement about the future that lies ahead of us as a nation. Tall and proud in the world, punching above our weight, developing a clever country, training our people for better lives for themselves and their families, empowering every Fijian, leaving no one behind. Today, we are launching braille versions of the Constitution in English and Itoke. A Hindi version is currently being prepared in India. And I want to extend my deep appreciation on all our behalf to the Royal New Zealand Federation for the Blind for making today possible. Thanks to my government's partnership with our Kiwi friends, this is a momentous day for all of those of you who read braille. You have been empowered. You are now able to read and understand our Constitution that will chart our new course as one nation. As I've said to every other Fijian, seize this opportunity. Come with us as we build a new and better Fiji for all. Ladies and gentlemen, children and my fellow Fijians, I now have the greatest pleasure in launching the braille version of the Fijian Constitution in the English and Itoke language. And I thank you.
Adapted in accordance with Section 69 of the Copyright Act 1994. The Royal New Zealand Foundation of the Blind, produced 2018 by Accessible Format Production.
The Honourable Prime Minister, Permanent Secretary, Solicitor General, invited guests, and of course the staff and students of the Fiji School for the Blind. Thank you this morning for being here this morning. As the Prime Minister said, this is a very, very historic occasion, and never before have we had the Constitution, Fijian Constitution, translated into Braille. I would like to very quickly, Prime Minister, with your permission, thank a number of people behind the scenes who have provided assistance. The first, really, we should thank is Terence O'Neill, who was in fact quite instrumental in making the arrangements between Fiji and New Zealand, and was a point of contact for us and liaised with us. And in fact, when he went back to New Zealand, he brought the first copy back for us. So please put your hands together for Terence. I'd also like to acknowledge the assistance of the foundation in New Zealand that quite readily provided this service to us. They have translated into Braille into the two languages, which is the English, of course, and the Itoke language. We have, as the Prime Minister said, got the assistance of our High Commissioner in India, who's currently working on it to get the Indian translation into Braille. I would also, Prime Minister, like to publicly thank, and because this is quite an emotional time for us, in particular for the team at the Solicitor General's office, I'd like to thank the Solicitor General and his legal drafting team who've come here. They've never come into the public, so maybe if they can stand up for us, please. Please stand up. Can you please get the drafting team, the SG, to stand up, please? Thank you very much. And lastly, but certainly not the least, I would like to thank the Prime Minister for his vision. We have a leader amongst us, ladies and gentlemen, who has the vision to be truly inclusive in incorporating every single citizen of this country to be part and parcel of the new Fiji that we are building. The sign of any great nation, the sign of any great leader is his or her ability to include everybody into the public life. And this has never really happened before. And the maturity of a country, the maturity of a leader is always demonstrated by that. And this is what we have today in our Prime Minister. Please put your hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, I'd like to thank the students and the staff and the board of the school for accommodating us here today. We want to work together with you in the future, of course, and get as many people who are visually impaired to read this copy of the Braille version of our wonderful Constitution. Naka, thank you.
Cecilia. Hi, Cecilia. What's your name? Anna. Come, Anna.
This is our Prime Minister.
How are you? How are you?
That's it.
Hola.
Go around. Go that side. Go that side. That side. Pushin.
Teacher Suari.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You
La
read?
ministra en Garava
Yeah.
na takataka ni Obisa
Yeah.
en antau Pakarutaka
Yeah.
nai tuba raramba ina beba karau me pakamuri
After the second vote, a person who is nominated has the support